he came driving in on his motorcycle all cool. I was like, ew, who's that?
First impression.
He thinks he's all that. No, but yeah, we met at church. We never would have met otherwise because he was from Ohio and in the military, and I was just like a party girl from Fontana. So I was the youngest of 4, still am the youngest of 4. And my parents, let's see, they were married, legally married, and they were married for over 50 years. So growing up, let's see, I was a little, I guess my sister would say spoiled because the youngest. We were Catholics. My mom was a good Catholic. She went to church often, and that my dad was more like a holiday kind of Catholic, or go on
Christmas and Easter.
yeah, or you know, especially events. He always wore the same outfit. We have pictures of him. He had these gray slacks and a white shirt with black polka dots. And so yeah, so I was the youngest. We grew up in Fontana. My parents, that was like, they had kind of like moved around a bit, trying to settle, and that was all before I was born. It's not like you see in the movies where it's like, I saw him across the room and it was like, he's the one for me. Is that how you felt?
No, I just probably said, that girl doesn't know how to match her socks. But we both, you know, let's just come out with it. We're both Christians living for God, and so we were committed to living for God before we ever thought things could work out between us. So we met in church and just were friends for quite a while. You know, just friends as in, hey, we're doing this ministry together, we're doing this outreach together, we're having this service, Bible stuff, you know, and just did things together, and that was really all as far as it went.
I knew, I had a feeling that he maybe liked me when we were at like an event. You probably won't even remember this. And it was actually Oceanside, like a crusade. And everybody, it was like a large party, had went out to dinner. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just sit over here. And I noticed that he made it like, he on purpose, like moved over to where I was sitting. And I was like, oh, okay. There was a lot of empty spots over there. And he kind of made it over here next to me. So that was when I was on to him. Okay, maybe he does like me a little bit. But I don't know when.
I do remember something that happened. We were doing a play. We were doing, I forget, it was a Christmas play. And, you know, I was kind of like the audiovisual guy in that play. I was trying to run sound. And the way I had a soundtrack from a VHS tape. And I remember she was actually trying to help me to cue up the tape to play it at the right time.
I'm like,
and I remember it was like showtime. And I was just totally off guard. It wasn't cued right. And somehow I did something and boomed and we got it just right. And it was like a moment between her and me to where we're like, that was incredible. That we pulled that off, you know? And I don't know. It, maybe.
Do you want to marry me?
Yeah. We did that together. So what do you think?
I pressed the button right on time.
It was a very weird scenario. And then we had construction projects in the church. That was key outreaches.
It was kind of like, I don't know, was it a spontaneous thing?
Wasn't it? We were going to play tennis together. And I took that one guy down to San Diego. That was.
Oh, yeah, that was going to be. Yeah, I still remember that. I was a little sad. Yeah, we were going to go play tennis. He was going to pick me up.
And she used to beat me in tennis, by the way, once we finally started playing.
He was going to pick me up in his VW van. And so I'm like ready, getting ready. Oh, okay. And then I think you were a little late. But then he showed up and I come out and then he's like, oh, Well, I picked up this homeless guy.
He wasn't homeless. He was just hitchhiking.
I picked up this hitchhiker dude, and I feel like God really wants me to give him a ride to like San Diego or something. I'm like, oh, okay. Then yeah, we'll play another time. And that was that.
It was a ride from hell, let me tell you. This guy was, he had woogums. He had some things on the inside of him, and I don't want to sidetrack into that. But yeah, that was the first failed date. But I was nervous about it before we were going to play. I even prayed. I said, God, if this is not you, then cause something to stop this. And so I guess I was being spiritual, I don't know. And when I saw the hitchhiker, I said, okay, God, I get it. I'm going to pick this guy up.
I think I made you nervous.
Could have been.
Yeah, I think I made him a little nervous. Yeah. There's a hitchhiker. Okay. This is my way out.
She still does make me nervous sometimes, by the way.
No, but when we went, it was like after church, and we just went like to get a hamburger. And we went through the Baker's drive-thru. And then I guess we just parked and talked and ate.
I talked to my pastor, Eric Strutz, you know, saying I was kind of interested. So what should I do? And that was what he said, try and go on a date or go on some time where you can spend some time together alone, you know, in a public place. So that was my first effort. Drive-through Baker's. So that's high flying, huh? Do you remember that, cueing that tape before the play? You don't remember
that? Not at all. Mm-mm.
But I do, sort of.
What, Baker's?
No, when I sat close next to you down in Oceanside.
Oh, okay.
Man, that is such a vague memory, but I think it's in one of my...
I think because it stood out to me.
I think it's in my F drive somewhere.
It stood out to me.
She was really saved, and she's a very happy girl. And I like that. I like that in a girl who wasn't concerned about what everybody thought about her. She enjoyed life, the simple things in life. And she wasn't a superficial type girl. So kind of what inspired me to get married was, number one, I liked her. And she was a very happy young lady, saved young lady, involved. We're kind of going the same pace for God. And I remember seeing my pastor and his wife in their marriage, and it was very appealing what they had. What they had was a very, it just seemed blessed. It seemed right. It seemed good. And I didn't see that in my home and my parents. I didn't see that really in anybody to where they had a really good marriage. But when I saw that, and I saw a number of others as well that were good, I realized I wanted that, and then figured it was her. I guess it was probably my idea to get married first, right? Or was it yours?
It was yours.
Mine.
Yeah.
So I asked her in a very unconventional, unromantic way. But when I asked her, it took her probably, 10 minutes to realize, did he just ask me to marry him? And then did you call me and no. You said, I don't want to get into the proposal, but I don't know what actually triggered it. I guess I just figured I really liked her, and we were going to get married, but we wanted to bring some of our coworkers, our friends, our families into that arena, because we do it in a church service to where we would get married, or say our vows, and then we would sit down. We'd come in, sit on one side, one on the other side. Then once we get married, then the girl goes to sit with the groom, the husband, and then the pastor will deliver a message. Sometimes on marriage, sometimes just on salvation, because there's oftentimes lots of people there, and pull an altar call in the hopes that people would get saved. That was what we pushed. So she brought a lot more people than I brought, by the way.
Because I lived here. I was from here. But he was outreaching at Stater Brothers and invited people to our wedding.
I don't remember that.
And that guy came. Remember that older gentleman?
Oh, that was from Fedco.
Oh, Fedco. Well, So anyway.
That's another story. He was a good guy, saved.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So we got married on August 6th, 1989. So that means in 3 months, minus 1 day, actually, we'll be married 32 years and happily. Happily
We'll
married.
see after this interview.
So we want to tell you how that happened or how that works. My pastor always stresses in marriages there has to be communication. He really stresses that. And there must be communication between a husband and a wife. So lack of communication can cause all kinds of problems. Things can build up. You're not talking. So lack of commitment to each other, lack of commitment to the things of God, which is really what helps a marriage stay strong. One of the several reasons that I want to keep my relationship going right is that God's involved. And you've all heard the phrase happy life, or happy wife, happy life. Happy wife, happy life. It seems, just a cute little cliche, but it's actually rooted in Scripture. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. And I'll let you guys look at that one. But it basically says the wife, if you're not treating her right to the husband, then God is not hearing your prayers. And that is like a death nail to a pastor, or any husband for that matter. You want your relationship to be right with your wife, and that helps your relationship because God is watching, and He's very interested in how a husband treats his wife.
From the beginning, I knew that I was not going to be the top. God is the top, and then it flows down from there, and I just knew that's the way it was going to be. So sometimes that can be for the wife a little like, oh, okay, you're going to be gone again, or oh, I made dinner, and oh, there's an outreach all of a sudden. And
ministry flows out of a good home life, and it flows out of a good marriage. And if your wife is behind you, you kidding me? That's better than a whole commentary on the Bible. If your wife is there and speaks into your life, sometimes constructive criticism, encouragement, direction. So you take care of your wife, and that reflects, she's a reflection of you as a husband. So you better take care of her because that's part of the ministry. And then I think people see a good marriage, which is one of the things that we really appreciated in Pastor Eric and Brenda Strutz, their marriage and their family and their home life, and we've spent time with them.
There was this couple. It was one of my daughter's friends, and so I kind of started to get to know the mom, and my daughter would go play, at their house and stuff, and they had like a beautiful home, and they just bought I think another one, and I remember kind of feeling that like wow, look at what they have, look at ours, it's, I'm sure, I don't know if I ever talked to you about this, but it was, but it was kind of like something that I had to deal with, and it was wow, it's really nice, and they weren't Christians or anything, and we're serving God, and we didn't have. Well, then a little bit later, come to find out, he's having an affair for 8 years, and I remember that hit me and I thought, wow, I wanted what she had. You don't know what other people are going through, and it's don't compare. It's just gonna screw it up for you. Be satisfied and work on what you have, and try to, make more of it and whatever, make things good. But don't compare, because you don't know what other people are going through, I thought about that, for when I'm doing laundry, the things I find in John's pockets are guitar pick, flyers, somebody's name that, somebody he prayed with, and it's annoying, I should take these out of the pockets. Well, sometimes I think, what are other women finding in their husbands' pockets? Other girls' phone numbers, just stuff like that.
Lipstick on the collar.
Yeah, and that's, thankfully, I haven't had to deal with that. And the reason I haven't had to is because my husband is faithful to God first. And so I would say to women, like, don't be like trying to pull your man away from God, because that's what's keeping him on track, you know? Kids are a blessing, definitely a blessing. But this is about marriage, I guess that goes along with raising kids, but like, you have to learn to work together and be on the same side with raising kids. And like, they'll be kind of like, well, mom said, and well, dad said, and then it's like, you know, we have to be together. And since we are Christians, we base everything off of the Word of God. So as far as like disciplining and you know, church related stuff, we've always been together in that, and that helped. One person may go to church and one not, you know, that's a different, but for us, it's about working together and being on the same side and teaching them, and I don't know what.
But yeah, kids are a great blessing, and if one of the reasons we have children is to raise godly offspring. You want to raise them to serve God and enjoy living for God. And most women want a little baby in their arms. Let's be honest. And it's amazing. God gives us children. We're stewards. He lends them to us. You know, they don't belong to us, but it's a real challenge. And I get surprised on how many parents today allow their kids to raise themselves. And it's sort of like they're thinking that it's just going to happen automatically, and that they're going to be good human beings. But kids, we've had a great time serving 3 kids, or raising 3 kids. Serving, raising.
What do you want, mijo? No, but it is an extra, like, it can be hard at times, like, you know, trying to balance like church, kids, family, work, you know, so.
Boundaries, discipline, like she said, you have to be on the same page with those arenas there. It can test your marriage, though. It definitely can test your marriage if you're not on the same page. But it's if you put effort into it and prayer and really get yourself involved with your children, which is what kids desperately need in this generation, where society on many levels, on so many levels, wants to pull them into the cesspool of sin and insanity.
And I would say, when there's a lot going on, like, you know, you got all this stuff, and then some people, it may be like tempting just to leave out church, you know, because you got the school, you got work, you got like activities, you know, so it's like, you know, like, but that is the one thing that you should not leave out, because that helps, that just helps them, the kids, in us, like everything helps. And it can be tempting, like, you know what, we're just not going to go, we'll go once in a while because we're going to do this.
Well, they need family time, but what better quality family time would there be than being in church together, coming to church and experiencing all that a church service or a revival or what have you offers. The average marriage in the United States is 8.2 years. And so there are various sources, but I think this is fairly accurate. In Rome, the average marriage lasts 18 years. In Ottawa, Canada, 13.8. I'm naming these cities because they kind of interest us. Paris, 12.2. Sydney, Australia, 12 years. Mexico City, 12 years. Tokyo, Japan, 11 years. London, 11 years. Cape Town, South Africa, 11 years. Qatar, which is in the United Arab Emirates, it's next to Saudi Arabia, 5.5. So, but 8.2 years, and so I've heard the 7-year, threshold. Once you get past that, you're doing really well. But a lot of people don't marry today for various reasons. I think one of it is the comparison game. Social media has made things so photoshopped, so fake, and you're looking for this existence that it is not reality, at least not in real life. So people have this idea, this wonderful relationship and everything. It's just storybook, the comparison game. And also they don't see marriages that they can emulate or that they want to emulate. Like if you ask a young person today, do you want to get married? Most of them will say yes. You ask them if they have any marriages that they can mention that would be something that they would want to copy, something your parents, your aunts, your uncles, and most young people will pause and they won't have an answer. Or they'll say, well, there's really no one, or maybe one, some distant relationship. So they're not seeing it lived out. So why would they want to get into it if it's just going to be the same scenario in a couple of years?
You knew when you got married, you were just going to stay married. And then being a Christian, like on top of that. So you kind of like just work things through. You don't.
Now, it doesn't mean if there's a divorce, it's the end.
Yeah.
But there has to be something you're aiming for in the beginning, which I think most people are aiming to make it long term. But go ahead.
And like I said, we didn't have any major like infidelity and like things like that. So but I guess, I don't know. You just want to stay married because that's what you're supposed to do, and you want to please God, and you, like, sometimes you might notice little things are bugging you, like, but really you're gonna like throw everything away and because he leaves his underwear on the floor, because he doesn't put the cap back on. Like, those are little things, but after a while they kind of build and people can kind of get like really annoyed with each other. Those vows, they meant something when we said them, and we're not gonna just give up that easy.
Also on top of that, the value of marriage is incredible. The value of a good long-term marriage. Who created marriage? Well, God did. We didn't just figure this out and it's just a piece of paper. No. It is a covenant relationship, meaning God's involved. When we got married, it was between her and I, obviously, but God was involved. My pastor was there, the congregation was there. So it's between us and God, and us and God and society. We're going on record. So a covenant relationship means God's involved, and He's watching, He's very concerned, and He helps. And marriage forces you to change. It forces you to grow up. And so you cannot jettison all that because something is not quite going that smooth. That could be a very rough place in your life that God is trying to smooth out.
For me, like learning to, be able to talk about it, or, thinking like, okay, I know I'm right and you're wrong. Like, okay, I'm not always right. I need to try to see from his side.
If you need counseling, you have to be willing to submit to it. And oftentimes men are very unwilling to go talk to someone for counseling. It's a sign of weakness. And so counseling really is not mystical. It's almost like you're refereeing a marriage, you're refereeing a relationship. It's a great resource, especially within a church, because the pastor or leaders in the church are there, and part of their job is to pray for you and know you, and so they've already got kind of a mindset of where God is leading you and directing you, and perhaps observing you and seeing where there's some problems. And sometimes it doesn't have to be both sit down. It can be. Sometimes that's where the refereeing comes in. And, I can remember counseling a couple that were probably just about in their 70s. But it doesn't always have to be both. It can be just the man going to the pastor or the wife going to the pastor and getting a quick. And if he sees the need, okay, we need to come together, then fine. But if not, sometimes a bit of advice can just help on a one-on-one basis.
It's just someone from like another perspective, sometimes you don't see that when you're in the middle of it, and so for someone that would be willing to go to counseling, that's a good thing, I would say don't feel bad about it, think, oh God, we gotta go to counseling, we're all screwed up.
But here's the other thing about counseling. You have the professional world of counseling. The downside of that is those people don't know you. and those people are not responsible for you. Pastoral counseling and godly counseling has the benefit that he knows you, and secondly, that he's accountable to God for you. So that brings a straightening like a tail to a kite, that we better do things circumspect, and we better try and get this thing corrected in a godly manner. So godly counseling and pastoral counseling, I think, is far greater than counseling from someone you don't even know. We've seen it happen over the years where a husband or a wife will go south, and the wife sticks to it, and that helps the kids navigate through things and them, and oftentimes it will eventually bring the other person back. That doesn't give you the right or a reason to backslide if you're the one that's sticking to it. In fact, this is when your faith really needs to go to work, because that person, if anything, needs to realize kind of what we've been saying, that, hey, God comes first in my life. We met a young girl at a little rodeo. She was on break, and I'd mentioned to her we'd been married, and we were going to do this video. And for 32 years, we're going to do this video. And she's like, I said, do you have any questions you would want to ask us? She goes, yeah. Has there been any disloyalty? That's the word she used. And what she's saying is, has there been any cheating going on? And I was like, well, why did you ask? That's a pretty pointed question from an 18-year-old to ask. But she said she experienced, her experience was that she had a boyfriend, that she thought things were good. She said he cheated on her, and I thought he had another girlfriend. And she says, by looking at pornography, he cheated on me. So here's a young girl. I don't even know if she's a believer. I was led to believe she was not at that point. But she still, at that age, realized, I don't want a man that's going to look at this as being okay. Now, that's the problem. Our society thinks it's okay. Well, if that's how you want to live, go ahead. But number one, in Scripture, it's not okay. And number two, in a woman's opinion, hers, and a young girl who's 18 years old or 17 years old, it's not okay. It hurts. Infidelity is devastating. Devastating. If a man cheats on his wife, or if a wife cheats on her husband, I mean, it's like a knife to the gut.
If he's like looking at pornography all the time, you just feel terrible about, like you feel like you're not enough for your husband to be satisfied. You feel like you're ugly. You feel it just, maybe he's not actually going out and like having sex with another lady, but obviously we know when you look at pornography, you're thinking, you're imagining, you're
committing adultery in your mind.
Yeah, and so for a lady, if her husband is doing that, I mean, there's some ladies who think, oh, it doesn't bother me. Well, that's very few, I would say. And if the husband could get control and discipline his thoughts and that part of his life, his wife is going to be a lot happier, and she's just going to, everything would be much better. So yeah, that just really messes up a woman, the way she feels about herself, the whole marriage. She's not going to open up. She's not going to feel like she can fully open up to her husband because there's this other woman or people in their marriage and sees, pornography.
Virginity is so highly valued in the kingdom of God. Not many people come to Christ and they haven't been pure. In fact, in society, to find someone that is so few and far between. So when you get saved, the slate is wiped clean. So I can say that to people that, we don't talk about our past before we got saved indefinitely. Why should we? It doesn't accomplish much. But once you get saved and you begin to live for God, then you realize, I am made for one person. And if you're born in, raised in church, and you find yourself still in a place where you still have your virginity and so on and so forth, to remain pure. Even if something happens, you never get married. We'd like to see everyone get married, but even if that's the case, still living pure and clean is right before God. You know, fornicators shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Now that is a hard statement in this generation, but nevertheless, it's the gospel. God knows what He's doing. So purity, outside of marriage, there has to be absolute purity, or an aim to be as pure as you can. So when the time does come, what better thing can you communicate to your wife or husband that I'm yours, I'm only for you.
And I think it shows that someone has self-control. You know, if you can stay pure and wait till you get married, because you think like, oh, it doesn't matter, and well, you're able to control that, like, part of yourself, your thoughts and your actions, then, because you think like, oh, when I'm married, I'm gonna be told, like, you still have to control that, like, yes, you're married, but there still are other people and other, things that you have to say no to all the time. And if you can't do that, before you're married, it's not like a magic wand and like all of a sudden I'm so faithful and I have like this discipline in my life. No, work on that, and then you can have that when you get married. And yeah, and that'll be good on both sides.
Very good.
One thing that we deal with a lot is like our emotions and our feelings, and we can kind of like go by those. So like, I would say for a man, like they deal, one of the things that they have to face and deal with is more like being faithful, like being with one wife, and because that's just the way it is. Like, men have to deal with that more than women. And being, just having one wife, being faithful to one wife, not being, in extramarital things or pornography. And as a wife, we expect that from our husbands. Like, that's not okay if you're doing those things. And so we expect them to deal with that daily. And so I would say, like, for women, we have something that we have to deal with daily, and that's like not letting our emotions and our feelings, like what we live by is not our emotions and our feelings. Like, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but because we can we're very emotional women, or we feel things a lot, and it's like, well, I don't feel like doing that today, or I don't feel like, I'm just unhappy because he said this, I'm not gonna do that, or like, we can give into that. And I would say for women, like, that's our battle. And to be able to realize, like, okay, I'm feeling this way, but I'm not gonna let that be my, I can't think of the word.
It's gonna dominate my...
Yeah, like how I'm going to act. It's not going to dominate my life and like how I'm treating others, because I feel like I've been wronged, or I'm just feeling, yucky today, or I'm feeling like bad vibes here. So like, you're gonna sleep on the couch, or I'm not gonna, whatever. So I don't know, that's a little, I'm not getting the words so great, but I just think we expect our husbands to be faithful to us only, and that's something that men have to deal with on a daily basis. And so we expect that. And so us as wives, we need to try to control our feelings and not let them run our life and how we maybe treat others and our spouses.
To me, I wear it as a badge of honor that we've been married and that she still loves me. And, she's not afraid of me anymore. She's not incredibly impressed, perhaps, but, she's obviously hit some points of reality. This is who I'm with, and we're going to make it work, and we're going to make the best of it. So I scored, obviously. I've got the better end of the deal here. And I'm not just saying that. I have a wonderful wife. And God really blessed me in that arena. And I'm very thankful because I can be a stick in the mud. And if it wasn't for her, I think her joy before she was saved that I noticed was one of the things that it was almost like God saying, listen, son, you need some of that joy in your life. You need that, so, you know, maybe this can work here. For men, I think, it's a constant learning, a continual learning. Dwell with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, and as heirs together of the grace of life. So dwelling her with understanding, actually, if you break it down, that's 1 Peter 3:7, it deals with like a studying of your wife. And we change. And I would imagine she sees me changing and certain things that she has to consider and factor in to what she does for me. So there's always, we don't got this thing down. I still enjoy hearing sermons on marriage, reading books and articles on marriage. I still check things out here and there where people are talking about marriage to make it work, and how to cherish a woman. So you never stop learning, I guess, is my final answer. In a marriage, you're going to have to take the leadership role. A man needs to come to a place where he has learned how to make a living, because he's going to be the key provider. And not that you don't share decision making, but a man has to have a vision. He has to have a place that he's headed and goals in life. And the woman is there to be a helpmate to him. And what a blessing a woman can be. But for example, I've had men come to me over the years, not here in LA, of course, but over in Upland. No, but coming and wanting to start a dating thing, a relationship. They're not even working, and they have no element of leadership in their life whatsoever, but yet they're kind of thinking in a worldly mindset. Oh, she's pretty and I want this, but what do you have to offer her? And so that would be monetary, but that would also be spiritual leadership and leadership in other areas, taking initiative and so on and so forth. Today, a lot of young men will spend hours and hours on end playing video games. And so I'm not anti-video game, but how is that your vision, that you're going to spend hours and hours and hours on video games, or hours and hours and hours watching movies? And there has to be more to your life, because you're looking to bring someone in to your world, and she's going to attach her wagon to you. And where are you going? Where are you going to take her? Is it just going to be, well, we're married now, so why don't you go make me some homemade tortillas while I play a video game? So, but have some things happening. Otherwise, you're going to get into a relationship, and it's going to be a lot of fighting, a lot of struggle, a lot of locking horns and fighting. So you don't want that. You want to have a vision. I think one of the things that keeps us going too is that we're here to live for God. We weren't pastoring the whole time. We were, how long, when we get married, 89, we didn't go out to pastor for another 5 years, 6 years. So we knew what it was to be in a church and just serving God. And but we were doing things, and we had a vision for the things of God. And that kept our marriage. Our marriage helped that. And it helped our marriage. That it's not just about, okay, what do you want, honey? Or what do I want? But it's what God wants. And if you have a vision, without a vision, the people perish. They cast off restraint. They stop striving for, some excellence in their lives. So, a young man, one, trust God, but two, begin to mature and be someone that a woman would look at and say, yeah, I can attach my wagon to his star, because he's doing things, he's going places, and he's a very, very good example of what a man can be.